Hello and welcome to Miss Loisel's podcast. I'm here with our special guest, Jenny Lee, the seer, and she is a multidimensional seer who does mediumship and international remote viewer who specializes in locating missing persons, artifacts, and wills. She's a medium who is capable of communicating with loved ones who have passed away. She's highly accurate in identifying with specific spirits that clients want to communicate with. And Jenny is a spiritual teacher who offers classes in meditation, mediumship, intuition, and remote viewing. Jenny connects with higher dimensions and makes global events predictions. So give it up for Jenny Lee.
Hey.
Hey.
How are you?
I'm doing good. And how are you doing today?
Good. So is this recorded?
Yeah, this is live.
Okay.
We're
okay,
live.
Awesome. Okay,
for
great.
1 minute and
That's
4
even better.
seconds. So if you want to share with us who you are and what Jenny's site does.
So, the understanding of when it started was before I was born, because I had a memory from another place that never left my conscience. And having a memory of remembering that energy that you felt so good in and a part of, and then coming into this life, being born, and still having memory to want to go back immediately was hard. So my path was instant of trying to return back immediately. Because there's a familiar, warm frequency that's a knowing and a stillness that you're interested in being connected to that. So that's how it started. And then the path was spirit was instant of asking me or saying, just follow our frequency, follow our communication, and don't worry about what man is trying to get you to do. So, and that's the way it's been. So it started at a very young age. So then you kind of get in your own world with things right away. And I did that. And I just didn't have fear when I was a young girl whatsoever.
Well, that's great. So you didn't fear any of this stuff? You totally embraced it?
No, I just kind of just walked in it and felt it because it felt familiar to do it. Like I've gone down this road before. I felt it in a different way, and that's the whole process of it. So, and then I think one of the first things is when I was very young, 3 to 4, and I started seeing spirits, people pass on, dying, and because you can't really communicate what you're seeing at that age in a different form. So I would just take my dolls and bury them in the ground, and each person I felt, I would just keep burying my dolls in the ground because I wanted to feel a relief of where they needed to be or how to develop with them. So that's what I did. I started off with that. And then I started having these dreams. And I was drenched in sweat sometimes at night. So they kind of went through like a terror dreams of many stages. And I had a hard time sleeping at a young age.
Well, I guess so.
Yeah.
So did the spirits kind of come and go all the time, or did they leave you alone? Could you shut it off?
Like I just did. I got good at ignoring them right away, and so it's just like they're not in my vision. So I was just like, so then I didn't seem to have an issue with pushing them off. But then circumstances started hitting, and I started seeing images at a young age of what was about to happen, and I started saying stuff. And then a week later, something would happen. And this was talking about 5 or 6, just laying it out there. And just not, being in a process of fear. This is another thing that I did a lot that my mom was frustrated because I was being raised in Denver, and every time she would let me outside, I would just take off because I felt like it was just something else was always leading me to search for something. And she had a heck of a time finding me all the time. It was hard for her. And so it was just something that she would say, you just had an agenda that was bigger than me or your dad. We just couldn't stop you from looking for things or paying attention to other things. So yeah, it was interesting at that age.
Wow. So, is that when you started learning to remote view and do mediumship, or when did that come into play? Was that at a little bit older of an age?
The mediumship that kicked in really quick because of the spirits and stuff like that. Remote viewing kicked in when I started seeing, looking at cases. And wasn't trying to look at them, but it kicked in at a very young age, and then I blew it off for a long time, and then it would come back, because remote viewing, I do it a different way than a lot of the remote viewers because I look at things in levels, and then I analyze the level and the evidence and the atmosphere that's there, and everything gets downloaded from there. So I paid attention to, the atmosphere and what was in the atmosphere and how everything looked in 3 views of things. So that's what happened with me. And then with me, it's different because with remote viewing, I'm able to draw the people or the murderer or someone that's disappeared because I saw it in that detail. So it added to that whole effect of the whole environment, because when you do remote viewing on certain things, it's kind of an addiction. You want to see it fall out and see how it ends up at the very end. So you kind of hold out to see the details of the information across the board. So it was interesting when that started hitting hard on a lot of stuff. And one was a case I did that was a friend of ours. We were at a rodeo, and it was the last time I saw her, and her ex-husband murdered her.
Oh no.
And just kind of like the way how they found her, the conditions and everything. And so it was interesting on that case. So that kind of stayed with me until it was foreseen how the case was solved, and then the accuracy was there. I mean, I just kept not looking for any of this. That's the thing, after you do it, I was just nonchalant, trying to do my own thing, not paying attention. Okay. And it gets so apparent that this is something for you that it keeps reappearing and it doesn't go away. It's not something you can just turn off sometimes. So I just started at a young age just accepting it. But I was more involved in wanting to be around animals than anything,
When you're young?
Yes. Yeah.
So you were drawn to animals, and where does that animals play a part in your Jenny's site?
Because I'm able to do animal communication and understand their conditions and what's going on with them, and then of course talk to them too. So animals are a big part of what I do, and because they're actually easier to do than humans. They're passed on. They're just instant. So yeah, it's always been something that just, it's easy to pick that up because they're so open to relaying their information and the conditions and the environment of what's going on with them. So yeah, it's
Huh? Sorry, is that for like healing them, or why would you?
Well, I mean, for mediumship, there's communication. for this remote picking up their diagnosis. And then there's a healing process with that too. So there's 3 different things that comes in to the process with animals. And all of them are kind of combined when you're in that mode anyway, because they kind of tell you what's going on with them, how they feel emotionally, and then, where they're suffering.
And do you also locate missing animals?
Yeah, I do that a lot.
Really?
Yeah. I even had one. I had one about 2 years ago, and it was a dog of hers. And this was in the state that I'm in now, North Dakota. And it was a little white dog. And I told her, I said, it's going to be back. I said, it's going to be about, 8 or 9 months, but he's going to come back. And then she put a lot of pressure on the town, and I knew that it was staying at a trailer, and I gave her the details and stuff. So she put a lot of pressure, and then all of a sudden one day, and I told her exactly, I said, he's just going to show up at your door. And that's what happened 8 months later. And I've done it for, and I've done it for when they lose their dog too, right away. I've done those too.
So you've been doing this. You've been doing this for 30 years or so. And what was it like in the early years? What's changed?
It's not that I wanted, you would call it instinct on friends and hanging out and doing all that stuff. And then you're aware of certain things. That's how it felt then. And you didn't want to fully walk into it right away. But then there are happenstance situations that keep reappearing into a situation that you feel that your heart needs you to handle. Mm-hmm. But then there's other things with this, I think with the star seeds and all that stuff. I mean, I feel protected by everything.
You do. You feel protected.
Yeah, I've been in some situations that that every time I get near an accident or close to getting in an accident, I don't get touched. I mean, last year, I was driving through a tornado, literally, because Spirit's like, just keep going. Don't slow down. Don't go in the ditch. Just keep going and just wait for the rainbow on the left side. And that's what happened. And I got through it. And that just shows you how well you'll trust, how far they'll go with them to trust them. And I was just kept driving through it.
Why were you driving through a tornado?
Because when you turned, they said, go into the ditch right now. And I mean, they didn't give us any warning. And it was right there. And I was just like, oh. So the outskirts of it, I wasn't going to stand on the side of the road. I wasn't going to go at a farm. I just drove, not to say as fast as I could, but I went at a good speed through it on the tail end of it. I was just like, I'm just not going to sit and wait to be a sitting duck. But I noticed, my truck wasn't affected. Nothing happened. I mean, I was on the phone with my son, and my son's the only one that kind of got freaked out because the phone went out, and because he's thinking, you're in a what?
Right. Most people don't have to drive through a tornado.
Right, exactly. So, but it has to do with, I don't know, it has to do with that fear. What do you fear? I mean, and if you look at things on both sides, I mean, that's the whole process of things. And when I've been through accidents, all kinds, and they always come out of it, it's just strange. So you start to really understand.
Yes. So you have a lot of trust in these guides, these spirits.
Yes.
And are the spirits guides, or do you have separate guides?
No, I think more of your, there's earthbound spirits, or people play with the paranormal and they haven't crossed into the light. It's not in that realm. It's more of a higher vibration, more of an angelic essence of information, and only connects with light information, light beings, light frequency. And so you can kind of feel that different, because I would say earthbound spirit is heavy. You can feel the heaviness with them. Or enlightened angelic, it's very light, and it's emotional, and it feels connected to the heart. And there's a big difference between those. So with those, and then seeing, just all kinds of different situations, I just have always just not looked for it and just let it present. So that was my path. Just allow it to show itself. And that's the whole thing. And then just as I got older, I think the dreams, premonitions for the predictions that I do and stuff like that got in. That's a little different. That comes in, and you just feel like a process inside you that you have to write and draw everything out. Because you have to get it out of your head and then process the information and put it where it belongs. So I do predictions 3-4 years out. I don't wait, 2 weeks. Wow. I do it and I draw it. And that's on my Instagram and all that stuff. I mean, like at California earthquakes and stuff like that and other things. But I always want the verification of it. I want to get it verified of what I'm getting, and not just put it out there. I want to see it. So there's been many things. So you don't get into a fear of if you're right or wrong, because you're not thinking that it's you as yourself getting the information. You feel like this light that's carrying through you, that's presenting the information for good, and it just presents. And then you just decide where you need to apply it. So I think we need to get out of the am I right or am I wrong? And it has to do with the development of what you trust and how far you're willing to take that trust and go with it. And because we all have these happenstance situations in life, and whether we decide spiritually on our path to ignore something that is for humanity or recognizing humanity, or it's a test. And then they are those, that just dismiss it. And I just paid attention very well. I mean, I think I was young. I was in Boston. I think I was 20 at the time, and it blew my mind away to walk by a bum and not anybody acknowledge their soul. I mean, it was just completely bizarre for me to not see the soul, But that's how humanity is changed in that way. So I always look at things different, through things. As a seer, you see through it. So before we speak, sometimes we're already seeing through the whole process of what's going on.
And do you think these beings from this higher dimension, are they all from the same dimension that you're contacting, or do they come in at all?
No, they're all in at different times and look different. This is the thing. I mean, a lot of people, I'm going to use the Yeshua as the real name and Jesus as an example. You have some people that see him as this white man in a cloak, and then they actually see him in his original form, and they see him with light in the face, and that whole form of being in the flesh didn't make sense. But it also doesn't make sense geographically either. So I always think in my head, show me your original form, and whatever form that is, that's, my mind's able to accept that form. So you have to get beyond what you have been taught here, and you have to accept something as its original form. And that's how I'm able to see those, because I'm going to accept it for what it is, not for what I think my mind needs to accept it for. And so you have to be really open to that.
Yeah, it sounds like it. And it sounds like you're much more open than most people.
Well, I mean, the thing is, why would you want to change something just because your veil of understanding can't accept it? And that's the whole thing. The future's changing, and where we're going in this universe, and nothing on that side that I see looks like the flesh. It's the light that I see, the frequency, and you recognize things by the energy. So I think that's just a 3D process here. So yeah, it's different.
Yeah.
But I wasn't suppressed down to decide that I need to learn it one way, because I was kind of thrown under the bus, because not in a different way. It's just I was not seen, and they weren't paying attention to everything, and they were trying to figure it out. I mean, at a young age with me, they were trying very hard to. I went through all that testing, and they did a bunch of stuff for testing my brain and all that stuff, and then
Really?
Spirit came in and said,
No.
"No, you're not going to go to sleep. They're not going to get this information. We're good." And I stayed awake. So there's certain things that just happen. The information's not for them. They're never going to get it. We're protected by a frequency of light. That's there. Like in mediumship galleries, you see, and this is what I don't do. You'll see them, and they'll name names, and they'll just walk anywhere. But the thing with mediumship, if you do a big gallery setup, just say there's a positive and negative spirits that can be in that situation, and a negative one can just mimic the spirit you want to talk about. So for mediumship, for me, is I tell the person, give me the exact identity, like the first name, and that has a frequency with me. And then that frequency goes up above, and I feel this information of that exact person, and I pull it down. So I don't waste time. I just get into it. I don't go into a room and look for names. I just want to get into the exact energy that's meant for me to perceive the information and give it back to them. And then I do the galleries. They're longer. They're 2.5 hours, because this is a serious subject, and you don't want to open up somebody. They're expecting messages, and then they don't get it. Then it really shuts them down and suppress them. So I'm not an entertainer type of, when I do galleries, it's about just getting the truth for them.
And what are your galleries?
Well, galleries are, where you have a group of maybe 100 people, and they all want to hear about their loved ones on the other side.
So how do you pick which ones come through?
Because I don't. Spirit does. They're like that guy with the blue hat, that one over there. They just go, I'm like you. And they're like, and you know what's funny? I like to pick the men in the group, because they are the hardest to read. Yes. No, they're just frozen. And I like that test. Yeah, I like to push it to the brink. And so when I do that, I usually pick them right away. And because everybody knows that's the person in the room that's going to be like, no way.
The hardest.
And then when you see them crying and them just going nuts over it, they're like, this is crazy.
Jenny has some sight.
Yeah, exactly.
That's when you know you're real.
Because when you're doing that, the messages change their lives, and there's responsibility in those messages and making sure it's clear to the person, because they're going to decide what they're going to do with their life from that point, that message they came across. And I have a lot of people that show up at mediumship galleries for murder cases, and missing persons. They end up at those events because this is where they're at, the point they don't have the answers. Mm-hmm. So it's, and they're looking for it. And you can see that in their face and their body, and their, you're like their last hope. And so I'm very careful what I'm getting, and then making sure I'm leading them in a direction that they need to verify and and look. So there's a lot of responsibility.
Yeah, it sounds like it. And at what point did you realize you wanted to help locate these missing people and these missing animals and wills and
I didn't
articles?
really have a choice because I was a project coordinator for safety, and I was working on projects, and we were going into buildings and stuff like that, and I just kept seeing more stuff. And then we were working on churches and stuff like that for construction, and then my boss is like, "You're gonna have to leave the building because I can't get the right pictures because all it is spirits everywhere." So they were just surrounding me. Yeah, it was on tons of documents like that, and so it just got to a point I had to make a decision because I was doing both. I was doing both careers, and then I completely switched over, and I haven't stopped. So there's a point that you can tell that it's like they're going to make it sure that you understand that you need to be doing this. And I started with, on that level of changing your life and you're going to have people look at you different because of your doing a different career. A lot of people don't understand. And so it takes them a while to adapt to it. But I'm very private when I present messages because it's a private matter to me.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things you just got to be careful, and some people, and this is where you have to really be open. Just because you have a message doesn't mean everybody wants to hear it. So I'm very careful with that. Like the Long Island medium, you see her do all that stuff, and I'm just like, you're just putting it out there and you're pushing it onto them, and sometimes they don't want that,
Yeah.
So I even when I'm publicly, I try to actually suppress it so very hard.
Really?
Yeah, I do.
And is it hard, or do the spirits just come a knocking?
There's just a barrier they can't get across, so I just don't acknowledge it. Like, I went out of town over the weekend, and maybe there was 2-3 times I saw some stuff, and I'm not going to say anything. And you just move on through it. So
how frequently do they come to you?
It depends where I'm at. It depends on at night what I'm doing. It depends on what I'm reading. It just depends. I think what people understand, there's have to be guidelines for everything that you do, and balance that you. And not to say that my life doesn't get unbalanced and I get tired and I get overwhelmed. That's part of this, but you have to set barriers in yourself to decide what you'll listen to and what you won't. And I'm pretty good at identifying the negative and not even giving it an ounce or even a breath of my time, and identifying, pushing it away immediately. I'm really good at that. So I don't have those issues that most people do with that situation. So I learned a lot about demonology and demonic energies and stuff like that right away for protection. And so I don't have those issues.
And what protects you? Oh, sorry. Continue.
What protects me?
Yeah, like what do you have for protection? Like you said, learning about demonology is one thing that protected you. You feel like you
well, they told me a long time ago, 7 years ago, about bells, and I use it every time I clear a house or whatever. And it's funny that everything's being surfaced with bells now out of the ground because I've been using it for a long time. So bells there's a certain tone and frequency they can't handle. And the word Holy Spirit, they can't stand that either. But they work off of fear. They work off of flesh needs. And when you have a deep flesh need, they use and manipulate that. And so you have to be well balanced to know that those games will come to try to use those needs against you. So I don't I try not to have anything that I feel that I need for a way that it's going to manipulate me. So I'm careful with that. So, and these are just things on this realm, they're temporary situations, and then it's always going to pass. So the number one word that Spirit told me about a long time ago, and it seems to work with everything, anything that's dark, anything that's going to manipulate you, is the word I identify. Because it doesn't matter what it is, whether it's demonic, alien-based, parasitic, whatever it is, it checks itself right away because it doesn't know, what you're seeing, what you're perceiving. So it loses its composure. We're talking alien, parasitic. I've tried it in many situations, or even NPCs, or just it's the reaction from it is just amazing. So it's interesting.
So I identify, is that
I identify.
That's the key to,
yeah.
So say someone's having a bad dream and they feel like something's placing these dreams in them, like it's in the astral plane, and you've heard of this astral plane, whatever it is. What advice do you have for people that are going through that?
Well, they call that the purgatory. So with that is, people in dreams don't realize they have control of their dreams because they think they don't. They put themselves in that elusive state and think they don't. So this is the thing with elusive dreams. Once you identify you have control of the dream, you always look down to the ground. Find the structure of the ground first if you're in the ground. And you're like, I have a choice here to get in it, stay in it, and hold the information, or get out of it. That's the whole thing. You have to bring in the grounding process, even in the dream. You do that because sometimes with dreams, we try to attach our personal life with the dreams, but sometimes it's just information and you're walking through. And that's why dreams through the night, they show you different scenarios and we try to attach it together. And sometimes you're just walking through different process. The whole thing is to have control of the dream by identifying that you can shut it down and have control over it. But we give ourselves into it and we think we don't have control over the dream. We do. And you just have to tell yourself, wake up. It takes training and understanding that you can do that.
So what if you don't want to wake up? What if you want to keep sleeping?
Well, I mean, there are stages that people do that and stay in that and want to go through the whole process, and they feel like they've been wiped out and they're exhausted and they're tired. But the first thing they're doing is trying to figure out where it is attached to, who's it's attached to. And sometimes it's for days before people understand, why it presented itself.
What if it's reoccurring? Something that keeps coming and it's just recent. It's something.
Well, that is a target or a dream. Exactly. That's it's important because I'm teaching people about dreams that are of predictions and that mean the dreams that mean something. So when you stay on that process of things, you're going to see it consistently until in your mind that you say, okay, I accept what you're showing me. Now show me more. So you have to get them to understand that you're seeing that. And now you need to move to the second phase of this information that you're getting.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And you also have a book out, Walking in Humble Spirit.
Yeah.
What inspired you to write that book and share all that information in a format of a book form?
I didn't have a choice because they told me a long time ago, they're like, you're going to write a book. I was like, there's no way I'm going to do the book. I have ADHD. I have dyslexia. I go, where do you want me to? I mean, it's just going to be, but and there's a way around it and I figured it out. And, so when I did it, we worked on it week by week, moved things through, and then it was finally done. But yeah, I resisted it for forever to not apply the information that they wanted me to do. And But then I just came to the conclusion of doing it. And so that was in 2017. And I mean, we're all getting to a new process of things. So it's a guidebook, and you want to put yourself in the situation where I was, and you just walk yourself through that. And that's the whole thing about me. I'm very raw on, like, you just need to be in it and feel it yourself and walk through it yourself. And I think with classes and stuff, and the one thing I teach is just like each person's at a different understanding and ability, and you can't teach them at the same level. They're all at different levels. So there's different types of, I would never teach mediumship in a group setting because each person's at a different level. I mean, there's general information about spirituality and awakening and the psychic abilities and stuff like that, but there's some you have to evaluate at their level and see things through them. So for me, when I teach someone, it's really not me teaching it. It's just like, okay, I see all this information they're saying behind you, what you have, what your abilities are, and then I filter the information, and then Spirit tells me this is what they need to be working on, this is what they need to be doing. So it's always a three-way conversation.
So what type of setting do you teach the mediumship classes in? Is it in
one-on-one? Yeah, no, it's one-on-one sessions. It's just that there are different understandings with mediumship and how they, and I need to see it in that way, and what they can see, and I describe that. But I test them too, and the biggest thing with that is trust. And I teach a lot with a blindfold. I teach because I don't want them to focus with their two eyes. I need them to focus with the mind's eye. And that's the most important process is, and once you can see through it, and you're getting the information, then you really build the trust up in what you're getting instead of trying to find something that is like connected to it.
And if somebody wanted to do a one-on-one class with you, how would they do that?
They would reach out to my website, www.jennyssight.net. And all my information's on there, YouTube's, all the stuff that I'm connected with, classes, readings that I do. And this is the thing with the artifact stuff I do. I find wills, I find all kinds of stuff that people lose and different, and I would do a walkthrough of a property, and I can just sit there and tell them everything about the property, what's going on with it and everything.
That's awesome. And how did you learn that? Does it just come to you?
It did, and I just listened. And I had I did one, and so anyway, there's a treasure area, and he wanted to find it on the land, and there have been people that looked for it forever and ever and ever. And this is the thing about that. Even though people are looking for treasures, not that it's always for them, because sometimes with those treasures that they end up having, there's an energy, past energy that's been looking for, and all these energies that have been looking for it before. And the one energy that lifts that from the ground seems to be like, just, I don't say a curse, but I always see they get sick or, something, because if they just keep it for themselves, I notice that happens. But it seems like when they donate it or something, there's no problem. But I've seen a lot of that, where after they get something and then all of a sudden they're sick or they've had cancer. It's just weird. So, and that's the whole thing. You really got to see why you're doing this, your intentions. At one time, it was someone else's treasure, So there's some interesting stuff. Indian burial grounds and stuff like that with that is different too. I mean, so you have to really understand and do the research of the land, what's happened there before, And I've seen Indian burial grounds. There's piles of deceased loved ones, and and they just want to be recognized for that they passed on and shown that fire, that their life matters. So there's a lot of stuff that happens. I mean, for say paranormal, I'll give you an example. Most people go into an old haunted place and they go looking for the spirit. I don't do that. I sit down at a table and I wait for them to come to me. And it's just downloading information and saying it's like, if they know your intentions are true and good, they're going to pick that up and you're going to step forward into your energy or not. So I never have to look for them.
So are these spirits around us all the time, or do you just have some like magnetic attraction or something?
That's not all the time. I was interesting. This is probably 5 years ago. I went up to the cities, and a friend of mine wanted me to, do this event. And it was just, I felt so upset because I could just feel that they didn't, wherever we were going, they were not supposed to be doing this. And I brought a book called Prayers That Bring Healing, and I kept it in my pocket. But by this place, there's a child's graveyard, and they felt all that energy there. And then in this house that they wanted to look at and stuff like that, I knew that they were never going to come out. And they stayed. And then they had, just big equipment and expected this to happen, and nothing. It was just, spirit kind of shows you, between the positive and the negative process, So I don't like it when people taunt spirits or use them as entertainment. It's disrespectful and it's wrong. So there's, it's not good. Like, like Zach Bagan, he's one that just pushes it to the brink on things. And so it's risky.
Do you keep up with a lot of people that are in the same, I guess you could say, industry as you?
Yeah. I watch them. I observe them and stuff.
And what do you think? Do you think people are very similar to you in how they pick things up and how they operate, or is everybody kind of unique?
I think everybody's different, and I'm definitely different from the way I do things. And it's not from people telling me that too. So because I never went through all these programs, these classes, and did it that way, I just had a natural way of doing it. So it feels natural to me the way I am. And so I guess when people say, you're able to do this and this and this, I'm like, but I don't know any different. So I don't know what normal is in that sense. And I'm okay looking at it in a humble way and just doing my normal life.
And you said you had things before you were born. Is this why it feels natural? Because you've had stuff ever since you were before?
In another place, felt another light, felt protected, felt good, felt loved. Yeah, I held that memory. So
is that the only? Is it just one memory that you had from before being born, or did you have many? Or
no, there were many. I mean, that's the whole thing. I mean, this is it's a collective of energy that surrounds you in protections, and there's knowledge within that. But you have to be in the stillness of coming from such a calm place that your soul recognizes, and then moving into a different environment. You kind of push yourself back for a little bit to accept it. But my whole agenda is to, okay, well, I'm here now. How do I get back? When will I be in the place that I feel the golden light, Yeshua, the angels, that whole process again. because that love on that side is a collective. There's no conditions on that love. And here you have conditions of what love is for what they perceive, and what they get, and what they value. So it's different over there. And yeah.
And can you tell us a little bit about these pre-birth experiences that you had?
Well, I would have those sweats, at night. And it feels like, I couldn't understand the memory of being somewhere else. And all those are different colors that I'm seeing here. It's kind of hard to describe. And then you see energy moving, floating, colors, like fog in the motion of things, and how things appear are not the solid base of things at all. It just feels like your mind has a direction, and then once you move that direction, that appears. And I mean, everything is light and frequency on that side. It's not as solid as a human body, and it feels like, it expands, in that frequency. So you're compelled to be in that and stay surrounded in it. So when you ask the other side what it's like, it's just submerged in light that touches you, that works with you, that's not in harm with you. It's the Kundalini. You don't want or desire anything at all.
Is it similar to remote viewing? And how does your remote viewing work how do you work it in your experience, and what steps do you go through?
So remote viewing, I never attach emotion. I don't connect with an emotional way with remote viewing. I look at things as objects and levels, and that's how I analyze things, because I want to get the view of what it looks like and the description, and that's how I am. Remote viewing for me is not connected to the heart. So it's very much objects, or, if it's a person, then you're analyzing that person, the position they're in, the environment they're in, and all that's around it. So in small details, I call it the ant view, the mid view, and the giant view. There's 3 types of different views. You can look at that in different ways. And
3 views?
3 different views: ant view, mid view, giant view. So how you can look at something in details in that levels. And that's how I look at things.
Like something's very small and something's very large?
Yes.
And something's kind of in between. Is that what that is?
Yeah, it's your view. Mid view, you're looking at a room level. The small view and ant view, you're looking at very tiny details. And then the giant view, it's looking down upon it.
Oh, like you're flying or something.
Yeah. So it's a different view, how you're getting information. And then you feel all this, the downloads of remote viewing and writing down the detail. And sometimes it depends on how long you get into a session and how long you're looking at the target and how much information you get from there, 4 or 5 pages sometimes, but you can, with remote viewing, you can go in and go back exactly where you were when you left off. With remote viewing, you can go back into the exact detail and start from that level and go back into it and start again.
And when you teach remote viewing, how successful are people with being able to do what you're able to do?
And that's the thing, a good teacher, you teach someone to replace you. That's the whole thing about it. And there's different remote viewers or look at, that are better in different positions. I have one that's just great at mapping, geographic, all that stuff, just down pat on that. And then some people are very good at the view of their facial features and looking at the person in the perception in a different way. And some people are very good at underground perception and seeing the view from there. And some people are very good in looking at coding in languages. I mean, it varies.
I see. And how do you differentiate between information from spirits, intuition, or your own mind? Is it difficult to do, or do you know when you hear something that it's a spirit, or do you sometimes?
It's a knowing, and it's almost like I tell people it's like a computer. And you have, for remote viewing, I feel this different energy and not detail. And then for mediumship, it's a different energy. And then it's just your mind's working in this process that works well. So it's spontaneous, it's quick, and you just know where it's coming from. It's the knowing.
So you're able to tell when it's your intuition as well.
Yes.
And how is your intuition? Is it mostly that your guides, or have you heightened your intuition a lot through working with spirits and guides?
I mean, you do. I mean, that's the whole thing. All I can tell you is like a generator that works really well and be able to pull in light and frequency. And when I want something, I just think in that direction and what I need to pull. I don't doubt. The biggest thing, the key is not the doubt. If you go into doubt, you'll lose the information. With everything spiritually, you'll lose the information because you're doubting. You're trying to pull information from the left brain to analyze it, and you just need to stay on that right side and let it come in a pure rhythm.
Yeah, it sounds very complicated, but very natural.
It does at times.
Like it would be a natural process, but you make it sound so easy.
Well, it is, and you look at things in stages. I mean, it's different. I mean, there's people that, they want the gift. You want to be that way. And and everybody says you have a choice. I don't feel like I had a choice, and I don't believe that, because it started as, so young, and tests of my life started young, and it's how you reflect and look back on things and where you are now and how you got there on many situations. So you're tested through your life. So this starts young, very young.
Do you think maybe your soul made a contract before you were born into this realm, and you had a choice then, pre-birth maybe?
What they would say is, our higher self, and I think there's, about, we're getting into, the past, you guys call it the past lives, but I feel that's just like a diamond, a reflection of our soul, and we're going through many things at one time, and that piece of that reflection is here. And I think we all start over in different ways, in different timelines.
Within our life?
Yes.
Not just pre-birth.
No, I think that's just a door you open, and that's the door you're going through, and that's where you end up.
Are you talking about like mind fracturing, like where people have been worked on and they've been altered?
No, I'm not feeling that at all. No, this is like a diamond, and you're going through 20 processes at different times, and this is the thing that humans do, that they want to put it all together and say it's in the same experience. It's not, and you just like separate it and look at it as an individual situation. It seems more clear that way. So it's a reflection of your soul choosing a certain path. Your higher self, that all combines together. When it comes together, then all the memory will come in as one together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds very interesting. Well, I just
Sometimes
want
it
to
is.
thank you for coming on today. And do you want to tell everybody where to find your book and what your website is?
Well, you can Walking in Humble Spirits on Amazon. And pretty much everything else is on my website, or I have Instagram. You can find me there for a lot of my predictions and drawings and information is there. But my website pretty much will lead you to all the directions that you want to go in and look at.
And is there anything else that you want to share today?
Just that I feel that our world is changing for the better, and that we're going into the golden age, and everything is about humanity working together. And I'm excited for that change in the world and to stay in the light.
And if anyone wants to live up to this, what can they do?
I think, and this is the thing, because we never thought there was an option of, when you think about inside you, what would you do to give to humanity if you had the capability of doing that? And I think people need to actually reflect on that and pay attention to that, because you're going to be surprised that you might be able to stand in that without limitation. And that's the thing. You have to, because if everything flips, everything changes overnight, and we're in the 3 days of darkness, when you come out of that, it's like, okay, what are you going to do now?
Yeah.
So it's important to think about that.
So we all have to reevaluate our lives every moment and be
Yes,
the
we do.
diamond of reflection as we
Exactly.
refract our light and make decisions while our planet and the universes are changing into in different frequencies, into higher realms in this golden age.
Correct.
And do you think that this golden age will have more people like you?
I think the heroes from the past are here again. And I think a lot are here to witness at this time. I think we are in important times to be here on this earth and see this happening. So I think it's going to make us humble. I do.
Well, thank you for that, Jenny. So,
You're welcome.
Jenny Lee, thank you, the Seer, for being with us today. And I appreciate you guys all. If you want to support her, please go to her website, get her book. And if you'd like to support me, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And there'll be some descriptions in the description below. And bye for now.
Bye.